Welcome to Inner and Outer Worlds.
Guys, welcome to another episode of Inner and Outer Worlds. My name is Zach Hanania, and I'm here with
Jordan.
Fratello, my brother, Giordano Umberto Hanania. What's up, my guy?
What's going on?
So, this is a special trip report episode because last night I did 5-MeO DMT, and sadly Jordan didn't join me this time, but he was doing the special job of trip sitting for me, and it was quite the experience, but unfortunately it wasn't the full experience that I thought it would be because I didn't break through to being one with God or the universe or anything like that, but I still had a lot of insights come up, and it was state altering. And how about I'm gonna throw it to you for a quick little bit. Where did we get this DMT?
I don't know the exact place, but here in Vancouver,
From the store,
you
man.
can walk into a fucking store
Yeah.
and purchase many of these substances.
So under one roof, you can
One
get
roof, yeah.
LSD, mushrooms, DMT, 5-MeO DMT, which is different than regular DMT.
Kratom, all sorts of weird.
Kratom?
Yeah, that's
What is
like
it?
it's like a drink. You drink it.
Wow.
It's like
A DMT drink?
No, it's more like a It's more like an energy thing. I don't think it makes you like trip out, but
Wow.
there's like all sorts of stuff there.
Yeah, it's quite the store.
Yeah.
Worth a visit.
Yeah, I heard the cops were shutting down some of them randomly.
What?
But I don't think they'll go anywhere. I think it can crop back up.
Okay, so it's not that they have these shops set up illegally. Like I was talking to someone in the store last time we were there, and apparently the owner dude, I don't know what his name is or anything, and we'll release the name once we find it again. This dude partnered with the government to get certain exemptions so that he could open up this shop, and he's been working at this, I guess, for decades to get these agreements with the government, but they allowed him to set up at least this one location, and I know there's more than one location around town that
There's
sell
like shroom
shrooms
stores
and-
everywhere,
Yeah,
but not.
BC's the place to be if you want to do that shit, like legally and easily without any worry and waiting on dealers and all the bullshit that can come with that, but yeah, definitely the place to be for expanding consciousness in Canada, I guess. I think BC
so,
would be
yeah.
the best in terms of that.
I don't know if they were selling like, because Zach bought a vape pen and that's what he used yesterday. But I don't know if they were selling like crystal form of the substance.
Of DMT?
Yeah, because that would be better.
I guess.
To get like
So-
first of all to measure out how much you're taking, because you don't know how much you're taking in a vape pen. Like they tell you like, oh, the rate is like this at this setting, but it's like probably not.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been sitting in your cupboard for like a year or two, so I don't know how that changes things or what. So.
I think it's fine. Shouldn't affect
No, it's
it.
definitely fine. It's just like the dose rates and stuff. It's like you can't really tell.
Yeah, it would be nice to have just a crystal. I didn't realize it was a crystal version, but it
Yeah.
sounds like fucking meth when you say crystal, but it's not.
No.
So I will also throw it over to you before I go on my long spiel here of my experience. But what is DMT? What is the difference between DMT and 5-MeO DMT?
So DMT is a supposedly natural. Well, no, it's a naturally occurring compound. Well, okay, it's in plants everywhere. It's in our brain in some levels and our blood and whatnot. It's, I still think, unknown whether it's used for any purposes in the body. It might just be like naturally occurring for other reasons.
I think it's only released when we die, no?
I don't think that's like substantiated quite to the level that one would want to make that claim, I think, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
But I think that's like the theory, I guess, because the phenomenology of a DMT trip is quite similar to like near-death experiences in terms of like what people report from those things, like sort of cosmic awareness and all this, and visuals and all that stuff. So that's why people think it is released when you're in those near-death states. But I mean, that's a hard thing to like test scientifically, is like, how do you, I mean, I guess you could go into like hospitals or hospice or something where people are like known to be dying soon and perform tests and stuff, but I don't think people have done that yet. But
So it stands for dimethyltryptamine.
yeah, and there's specifically, there's an NN out front of the traditional DMT that people talk about. So NN
What does
is
that
just,
stand for?
it's just two nitrogen
Oh,
atoms attached to the molecule.
cool.
So you could look up like the chemical structure for DMT. It's like a fairly simple molecule. I don't know all the details about it, but this NN, there's like two nitrogens basically attached to parts of the molecule. And then where 5-MeO differs is that there's a methoxyl group. I'm not a chemist, so I don't know the exact details, but it's like oxygen and some other carbons probably attached to some part of the ring structure in the DMT instead of these NN. So it's just like a slight modification to the DMT molecule, and they both kind of give you blast off experiences, but in terms of what you actually experience is very, very different in those states. And yeah, it seems like just one small change to a molecule shouldn't do that, but the way that these interact with your neurotransmitters in your brain, like the shape is very, very important for like what that does downstream. And your brain is such a
Downstream, like in conscious experience, or what do you mean?
yeah, downstream in terms of like network effects within your brain. So like those DMT molecules will bind to certain receptors in your brain, and because their like shape and electrochemical structure is different and how they interact with the neurotransmitter, that causes far more drastic effects than you'd might expect, like by replacing an atom here and there. So yeah, just because they're like slightly different chemically, it like produces drastically different results. That Reality Switch technology book by Andrew Gallimore goes into that in a lot of detail. It's pretty rad stuff.
Sweet. This Andrew Gallimore guy is a leading scientist in the study of DMT and psychedelics right now, and he's releasing a lot of good reading material. I highly recommend.
Yeah, his books are awesome.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I don't know if he's working. I'm sure he's working on other stuff like for books.
Yeah.
Definitely like to read his next one whenever that is.
And isn't he leading DMTX?
No,
Or is that
he's I think just involved.
Strassman?
He sort of worked out the infusion model, because you have to like infuse DMT over time, like it's called like a constant infusion protocol, where you continuously like pump in a little bit of DMT intravenously to the patient to like keep them in that prolonged state. So because he's like a neuroscientist, and I think he's a neuroscientist or neurophysiologist or something. He was like able to develop the models that were needed for it. So I think he's at least involved that way, and I think he's definitely following the studies and whatnot. But I don't think he conducts them. I think that's because I think he's in Japan.
Yeah.
And the studies are mostly in UK right now.
Yeah, and like typically because it's such a quick experience, like they would call DMT trips like a businessman's trip, because a businessman could technically take it on his lunch break and then be back to work within half an hour or an hour. It's such a fast experience. It could potentially feel like a lifetime or lifetimes, or an infinite amount of time. Time and space just collapse. There's no sense of those things when you fully break through. That's why it has those names. And so DMTX is a program that uses that prolonged onset technology, where they keep dripping it through an IV to give people that prolonged experience to hopefully navigate the realm longer and learn about other dimensions for longer periods of time, rather than just a flash in the pan kind of experience. And anything more on Gallimore or DMT that you have?
No, I think we'll probably like have a longer discussion about his books in future episodes and whatnot.
For sure.
And we can get into like the science of it and all, and then also like the phenomenology or like conscious related experience side of that stuff. But
it's secreted through the pineal gland, right, in the brain. DMT.
I think so. I don't remember. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's
I
what
read
it is.
Strassman's book a while ago, but I can't remember precisely.
I'm like 99% sure it is. But I thought you might know for sure. You hear a lot of spiritual type of people talk about activating pineal gland, and yogic teachers talk about activating it as if you can, as if you can control the secretion of it, and allow healing in the body. Or it's like a lot of these plant medicines, because N-dimethyltryptamine comes from plants, and it's typically given in sacred traditions through ayahuasca, which is a brewed tea. But it's a plant medicine, and it should be treated with respect and caution every time.
Yeah, I mean, people
have
do
a
that
trip
as like
sitter.
party drug sometimes.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a party drug too sometimes, but like it should be treated with deep respect, and it does put you in touch with other dimensions, which is should be looked at with reverence and respect and honor and like awe.
Yeah,
it's pretty wild that that's possible just by taking a substance.
Yeah.
But
and you're just gone for 10 minutes and then you're back driving your car.
Yeah, it's fucking wild.
Yeah, so
that's what I did, guys.
Okay, no, so you did the 5-MeO.
I did 5-MeO, which is this one is from a toad.
Okay, so it's originally from toads, but then they learned how to synthesize it. So the one you did was like specifically made in
synthesized version of what toads excrete. This is the bufo toad, I believe.
Yeah, it's a longer name, but bufo is like the
short
term that people use. Yeah. Yeah.
I wish I knew the exact things to better inform people, but I guess we got Google right here.
Yeah.
Jordan's on the Google device.
You keep going.
Okay.
Bufo alvarius. There you go.
Bufo alvarius.
Colorado river toad. Secretes it as venom, and people would fucking trap these things.
Which is wild to even experiment with. Like,
how do
it's
people
fucking insane that people even discovered this stuff in the first place.
Yeah, they would trap these toads, like tie them up by the arms and legs.
No way.
And like basically scare the shit out of this toad, so this toad starts secreting the venom. Yeah, I've like watched this on YouTube. It's fucked up.
It's insane.
And then they like scrape off the venom from its back and then like dry it and then smoke it. It's like,
there's been so much trial and error in human history. It's fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like, it reminds me of people that use this monkey's shit to make coffee in Asia. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, like
exactly.
the monkey would like eat the beans or something and then
yeah,
shit it
eats
out.
the coffee beans and then shits it out, and then they take the beans from the shit. Like, what kind of sick fuck decided to do that and then make coffee with it? But they do.
So
and yeah, so like 5-MeO DMT is not that much more sophisticated of
Yeah.
how they came about.
Okay, so do you want to like talk about what the typical trip reports are for this? Like what you were expecting?
Sure. So kind of like I mentioned at the beginning, like people report to have dissolved into nothingness, and all that remains is their consciousness, and they feel one with the universe or God or consciousness or whatever you want to call it, and they experience like pure white light, pure blissful states, nirvana, like all the love you could ever imagine, no sense of self, just existence in its purest form. Is that essentially what you've heard as well?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, time and space collapse. You feel like there is no sense of time. There's just existence and pure love and
Oh, there's a good
awareness.
Qualia Research Institute blog, or I think about the differences between NN and 5-MeO in terms of like these qualitative experience. It goes quite in depth.
Mm.
In terms of like emotional states of it and like levels of bliss and like geometries and stuff. So it's pretty cool.
Cool.
Yeah. But carry on.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I was expecting to at least somewhat experience, but it wasn't so much that. Like it definitely felt like levels close to that. So I did it through a vape, and I think that is way less, well, I know it's way less heavy hitting than a pipe if you were to have the crystallized version and just smoke it out of a pipe.
Yeah, well, it's just like getting the dose. Like you would have had to haul on the pen for way longer than we thought was safe, so it was like we were kind of playing it safe.
Mm-hmm.
But now I guess we know we can like, you can go a bit more on it.
Yeah, like we could waste 5 minutes talking about dosages, but I just encourage people, if you're ever gonna do it, like do your research to look up the dosages and
yeah,
and
try
go
to
from
avoid
there.
vapes, I think, in general with that.
Yeah, if you can avoid a vape, avoid it. I think like I've spoken to a lady who facilitates these type of ceremonies actually in Calgary, and she says like it's good to use either the synthesized version or the original toad venom. Like it's fine both ways, and it's just as spiritual both ways. I had my doubts that you'd have the same type of spiritual experience with it, just a man-made compound based on it, but that's not her belief at all.
Yeah, that wouldn't be my belief either, but I mean, people
Yeah.
have different like spiritual bonds and stuff with that sort of thing, so I mean,
Yeah, and it kind of
it could also be
her
like
perspective kind of changed mine, because I was like, okay, like if she helps people have these experiences all the time, and
Yeah.
like it's equally as transformational and moving and healing to people, that maybe it is about just the compound existing and
So
not about any
for me,
pure form.
I would actually say like if there are differences, it would likely be in like the person's expectation based on the different one they're doing. Like if they expect the natural toad one to be like more spiritual, and like that's basically like the set, like set versus setting type thing of psychedelics, you know, like the set is like what's in your mind. Like if you're expecting it to be more spiritual than a synthetic version, then like that would be the explanation for me. Even though like the molecule's still the same thing that's interacting with your brain. Like there's nothing like extra in it because it comes from a toad that is adding to it or anything. I think it's more like what your mental state is surrounding
that's true.
that. So I think she's definitely like valid in saying there's no difference really.
Yeah. Yeah, so I took one hit at first, sat back, and I felt the visual field getting kind of trippy and wavy, and I expected it to come on stronger from there, and it didn't. After that one, I think I had to sit back up And then Jordan helped me, which, by the way, big shout out to you for trip sitting. Like, you were fucking awesome the whole time.
De nada.
I sat back up. I did a couple more, I think, in a row.
Yeah, another like 20, 30-second haul.
1 30-second haul, and then
Yeah.
another, or just one?
Just one.
Yeah, okay. And then I think that was the time, either that time or the next time, was when I took off the deepest, which wasn't necessarily a blast off into anywhere. It was just like a dissolution of my own self into like just being so deeply here and now. And it is very similar to what I've experienced with ayahuasca and N-DMT, in the sense that I felt half in my body and half like an energy field in the room, which is an amazing feeling. Like, and like, it's hyper conscious. It's not like drinking where it's conscious depleting. It's like conscious expanding.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a really cool feeling. The visuals I can describe are like a desert mirage kind of of the room, and just like fractalized patterns kind of, but not as fractalized as like the very tight fractals that I was seeing in my visual field during the N-DMT that you and I tried.
Mm-hmm.
It was more spaced out, desert mirage-y of what was already there in the room, with some maybe what's the word?
Was this eyes closed?
Eyes closed and open.
Yeah.
Mostly open, I'm describing, but very tribal type of patterns, kind of, if there were any patterns, just like mushrooms, just like
Yeah.
a lot of these things. It's crazy. So like, before I continue, these tribal any nationalities, past tribes, typically have similar art. Like, I'm imagining the face painting and the patterns that they paint. Like, I'm not even one country in particular, but just all as in general, just whatever comes to your mind right now that you've thought looks like a tribal pattern.
Yeah.
Typically, I think, has come from their experiences with plant medicines, and then they draw it after.
Yeah,
and I
think
never
that's-
realized that. I thought it was just like cool, unique stuff back in the day, but it's like,
Mhm.
now that I see that in almost every psychedelic that I've ever taken, it's like, okay, like, they're obviously basing this off of these different altered states.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool. Anyways, so that was the visuals that I was experiencing, and the feeling, like I said, feeling half in my body, half like an energy field. And so the Coles Notes version of my takeaways from the experience in terms of insights, like, I'll just give whatever 5 that I wrote down, and then I'll unpack them each. But so takeaway number 1 is that relaxing is the path to our true selves.
Mm-hmm.
Trust, number 2, is trust is the fabric of the universe. At least that's how it felt. Number 3 was nothing matters. We're all the most amazing thing ever simply because we exist. Number 4 is we are our own best homie, our own best friend.
Homie of the show, ourselves.
Ourselves. Hell yeah. Number 5 was focusing on reporting back or telling a story to the other people when you come back from any experience takes us away from being in the moment and fully experiencing anything.
Right.
So going back to
Let's talk about these.
The first takeaway I mentioned was relaxing is the path to our true selves. So this came because I honestly think I didn't have enough in my system where it was gonna like fully take me to this like God conscious or universe consciousness of just feeling one with the universe. I didn't have enough in my system to do that. So because there wasn't enough momentum to blast me off there, I wasn't able to get there as easily as I think it should have been. But I was trying. I was like doing like consciously. I was 100% invested in letting go because I knew like the ego was gonna come up and try and like keep me in my body and like cling on to my sense of self. And I didn't expect it to cling on as much as it did because consciously I let go 1,000%, but subconsciously, like there was so much letting go that I was like trying to like relax my way through. And I think at first I was like trying to like force myself to let go, but then I realized, wait, like letting go is literally just relaxing. And the more I relaxed into the experience, like remember when I was like all squirmy and like my back and everything felt so
you were
tight.
complaining a lot about like,
so shitty to be in my tight. I always have tight muscles anyway, so it just felt like 10 times or 100 times worse to feel.
I do
in my
think there's
body.
like thresholds to like subjective experience, like as dose increases too, because it's like you become more hyper aware of like your body
right
at certain like probably low dose, and that's where you were. I think you're just like, what the fuck am I feeling? Like this is so bad.
It felt awful too.
And then I noticed you relaxed
to be
like,
in my body
after that.
So I just kept doing my best to relax into each physical tension or mental tension that was coming up in me. And then I finally, like through that process, it kept coming up like different tensions mentally and physically, and I was just getting annoyed at how tough it was, and I would keep doing hits every now and then to like try and get me there faster or deeper. And it just, through a process of relaxing more and more, I ended up getting to this like massive connection between like what I can only explain as like the deepest part of me, which is like I believe it's the soul. Other people can believe whatever they want, but and it was just so loving because I was able to like trust myself to relax and to trust the medicine and to trust life, that I wasn't gonna die from this, and to trust Jordan. And Jordan kept saying things like you're safe, which like it kind of put me in this like realization or like aha moment that like everything is about trust. And we always hear that, but like I felt to my core like everything is like the fabric of the universe is trust. Like energetically I felt that like viscerally in my body, because, and like reflecting back on it now, trust is so deeply connected to love and to our safety, both. So like when there's a breach of trust or trust is broken in any relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, or a business relationship, or any other type of relationship, it's like traumatizing to a person and their body and even their sense of reality. And it's awful to inflict that on other people, and it's awful to feel it. So like
well, usually you'd think of trust between like two people or two entities, but just to like think of that in your own personal context of like trusting yourself, it's like kind of like a meta trust. It's like I have different aspects of myself, and I trust like my true
ability
self to, my ability to like experience this profound experience and like let go into it and stuff. It's like that's a deep version of it, and you probably felt that like pretty powerfully.
Because it was like after the first hit, when it didn't really work and I had to sit back up, like I was shaking, remember, because of all the angst I had about it. And
the adrenaline spike, like to do that.
I thought I would be gone by now, and the fact that I'm still in my body is like messing with me, because I had to psych myself up so much for it.
What was like external inputs like in that state? Like when I would speak, like was that like, had you like, was it weird like to hear a voice or something? Or what was it like?
No, it was pretty normal. Like maybe there's a slight bit of a muffled sound, but not really. It was just like
like
you, and it wasn't like
you like knew I was there the whole time.
I knew you were there right next to me, and it wasn't like ayahuasca where someone would speak on the other side of the room and it felt like they were right in my ear. Like that was wild to experience that, but we'll talk about that trip another time.
If we're still on the relaxation point, I wanna,
yes,
because like a lot of what our brain does like in terms of shaping our morality, which is like how we act. So that's like, yeah, it's like you think your brain like tells you how to act, which it does, but it also acts almost more like a filter. It tells you how not to act. Like, and you do this all like subconsciously. It's like, I shouldn't just like scream in a grocery store. Like I shouldn't like, there's all these sorts of stuff that like your brain just implicitly knows like not to do. And like that's typically shaped over the course of your life, or like it can be like explicitly taught in many lessons, but, and that's kind of a part of like growing up and stuff, is like you're a kid and you act out and then you get a feedback mechanism from like your parents or your peers, and they're like, don't do that.
Yeah.
So then you like learn not to do things.
Yeah. We get domesticated essentially.
Yeah.
We're animals
So
that get domesticated.
The process of relaxation is very interesting, because it's like you're relaxing those filters that are like saying like, no, cling on to this body, like cling on to your daily experience. Like you don't want to blast off into like another world. Like it's like ego stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like,
and it was like
relaxing.
subconscious stuff that I didn't expect to come up. It was like, I would feel, like I said, these tensions arise when I'm like, what the hell? Like consciously, I'm all about letting go right now. I'm like literally the whole time telling myself, let go now, let go again. And then it would just feel like, no, not gonna happen. Like,
yeah,
I'm built, like my ego is like built to protect me.
When you say like relaxing, like I think like your note is gets you to your true self.
Yeah,
That's
relaxing
like,
is the path to our true selves, and
it's
I'll
pretty
expand a little
interesting,
more.
because it's like, who am I really? Like if I want to like act a certain way and like express my true self, it's like, should I try hard? Should I put an effort to do that?
No.
It's like, no, I should do the opposite.
Yeah,
I should.
and I'll get to that as I go into more points here, but go on.
No, yeah, that's basically, I was gonna bring up like alcohol. Like people say like alcohol releases your true self, which I don't know if I fully agree with.
I fucking disagree.
Because it lowers those filters for sure that your brain's putting up. And that's why you do all sorts of weird stuff when you're drunk that like you wouldn't typically do. But I don't know if that's revealing your true self, because then in that state, your brain and body are so distorted by this alcohol going through your system. It's like,
yeah, maybe after the first couple drinks, it takes an edge off and allows you to be more whatever present.
Yeah.
But beyond that, because it's a conscious contractor or depleter, whatever you want to call it, and not a conscious expander like psychedelics are, I believe it's taking you further away from who you truly are.
Yeah,
Because I do believe at our foundation we are pure consciousness.
I think I agree. That doesn't like excuse any bad behaviors people do when they're drunk or anything. It's just like,
yeah, but it's less of who they are. I think it's not more of who
yeah,
they are.
but it's not like if someone does some crime when they're drunk, you can't be like, oh, that wasn't like really them.
No, you can't like
It's
claim
like,
psychotic.
yeah, but still, like you
Yeah.
should be in control and not do bad,
Yeah.
stupid shit.
We've both been our fair share of ridiculous shit.
But it's usually not like harmful to other people.
No,
It's more
no.
like harmful to ourselves. So
Yeah,
that's bad in its own form.
for sure. But yeah, a big reason why relaxing within us takes us closer to our true selves is calming the nervous system. Like that's why meditation's so huge right now, regardless of someone's belief. Like you don't need a religious or spiritual belief. Like just the fact of calming your own nervous system allows you to be in the most optimal brain state to function in the world.
Yeah, in many cases, but in some cases you want to like hype yourself up.
No, well,
but I see what you're saying. Yeah.
having a meditation practice, I'm saying, allows you to be present with the rest of your day more.
Yeah.
Like it's not about like prolonged meditation or whatever. Like
Yeah.
you need to be able to ramp up your energy when it's necessary and ramp down. And just the pause to have like having pausing be a practice of yours when emotions get heightened is like the difference between someone like physically hurting someone and being like, wait, like,
Yeah.
that's a ridiculous
Yeah. It's
reaction.
like, yeah, when you feel
and like
strong
ending
emotions,
up in jail potentially.
yeah, when you feel strong emotions, and the ability to just like observe it and let it pass is like super powerful.
Yeah, exactly. So like stuff like that. nervous system regulation. You can also do breath work or whatever, but I just realized, like, through that relaxing practice, trying to relax into the 5-MeO DMT trip, it was like bringing me closer and closer to what I experienced as my soul, and just like so much love for myself, like unlike I've ever experienced in my life. I felt more myself than I've ever felt in my life from this shit. And I think I mentioned that like shortly after.
Did you find that it was like what you expected to find? Like your true self is what you expected your true self, or were you, like,
in a way, yeah, but I've never truly felt it that way. Like mentally, I always knew, like, yeah, like my true self or my higher self or whatever people call it, my soul loves me, and I already am worthy of everything, and like whatever. But like I never felt it truly, like felt to my core like I felt last night.
Yeah, and we were talking about like frameworks, like how these substances, like obviously you would hope that you can access your true self without use of a substance, which I'm sure you can. It's just these things are like quick shortcuts to a different framework that allows you to see through the world and through to yourself in a more impactful way. And at least temporarily observe a different view of the world and yourself that can teach you things, and then you take back to your daily life.
Right. I would honestly somewhat argue that a everyday person could connect to their true innermost self, because unless they have a very rigorous meditative practice, which I don't think most people have.
No.
Or they venture into psychedelics. Otherwise, you're connecting to the innermost part of you that your baseline self knows. Like, like you ask any person out there who doesn't do psychedelics or meditate, and they're like, "Of course I know myself," and whatever. Yes, you know yourself to the extent that your normal state allows.
Right.
But there are people don't understand that there are deeper states of connecting to yourself, of connecting to like amazing emotions of love or empathy for others, or all these things, until you go within. And psychedelics are a shortcut to go within. Meditation is the long route, but both are very valid, and I think very important for truly experiencing what it is to be human. Without trying to sound too intense, but
no, I definitely agree. I think there's definitely other ways still, like that.
What else? Like, what comes to mind?
Well, I think, like, for instance, certain like flow states.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
When
Yo, that's a good one to bring up.
Yeah, because we were watching The Alpinist today. Well, I'd seen it before, but I showed this to Zach.
I'm glad you brought that up.
And just like when you're in that flow state of climbing an icy, rocky mountain with no rope, it's like you're living in the present. In your, like, there's no.
The moment demands you be present as fuck,
it
or
is
you
life
will
or
die.
death, or you will die. So it's like you have to live in the present. That's like, it's focus, but it's also a sense of relaxation away from all these external other variables, like what's going on in other parts of the world, like what you ate for breakfast. It's just like you are one with that moment and with yourself in that moment.
Yeah, there's no opportunity even for a squirrely mind to enter, or you die.
Yeah. So I think in those types of states, they can sort of foster that more like
For
spiritual connection with yourself and the environment.
Like this dude in the movie, what was his name? Marc-Andre Leclerc.
Yeah.
So connected to nature, this dude. And I doubt he meditated, because like meditation is just essentially getting present, like AF in the moment, and anything like that demands your presence that much is a meditative practice in and of itself.
John Vervaeke talks a lot about like flow state and like these meaningful experiences and transcendence and whatnot.
You are transcending like your sense of time in those states.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's awesome. Most people have experienced that, like whether they're doing some sort of art that they like, or like if they're truly fulfilled by their work.
Yeah, it's like your sense of time kind of goes away. Like you can do this thing for hours and just be like, oh, what the heck, that was 3 hours. And
Exactly.
like
Sports do that with
here.
a lot of people too. Yeah. But yeah, especially the high danger sports where like not for a second can you think of anything else.
Yeah. So that stuff's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought that up, because flow state is probably like the leader. Like, yeah, people don't need to do any psychedelics or any meditation if they're able to get in the flow state regularly.
Yeah.
The shitty thing about our society, before I go on with my trip here, is it's structured in a way where it demands that we make money if we want to, which I'll also get to in my trip report here, but it kind of like, if you want to have options in this world and you have a family or loved ones that you want to give options to as well, it demands that you make money. And a lot of the time people don't feel that they have a chance to truly pursue what lights them up and puts them in the best flow state to make the money that they want, to get the lifestyle that they want for themselves or their family. I think life gets trickier the more lives that depend on you, whether that's a partner or like a partner plus kids, or sometimes more than that, parents that you have to take care of. And people kind of feel trapped in the system, so to speak. And it's their own fault. Like, you can also choose a life where like you don't focus on the money and you just focus on being in the flow state, and maybe that's the best example you can give your family. But it's a big perspective change.
I would contend the fault thing, because like lots of people do not have a choice. It's like you're thrown into some bullshit like from day one, and you're just fighting to survive. So it's like yeah, you can't say it's like someone's fault. Like lots of people.
Yeah, okay, maybe fault is a heavy word, but yeah,
like lots of people don't have an option. Like when we have like the privilege to choose certain lives, and then like choosing to pursue materialistic, like money seeking ones, like then that maybe gets into fault and whatnot. Or if you make bad decisions along the way, and then you're like stuck in certain systems and whatnot. So it gets tricky for sure. But
yeah, I guess I use that word. I should say, like, I'm meaning it in the sense of like people should hold themselves accountable, and like, yes, there's many factors at play, but the only way you can change a situation, if you're choosing to change it, is to take accountability for it. And be like, okay, like it is in my control to potentially change my life into something that's more fulfilling. But yeah, you're very right. Anyways, so moving on to the second one, and you touched on something that relates to my third point, but I'm gonna just finish up with this trust second point here. Trust is the fabric of the universe. Like I said, it felt like everything is connected to trust, and I felt that viscerally. Yeah, I think I said everything I wanted to on that one as well.
Okay.
It's just so connected to relaxing as well. Like, relax and trust. Like, the only way to truly relax into anything is to trust yourself, trust the environment, trust the people in the environment.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, those two lessons came hand in hand. The third point, nothing matters. We are all the most amazing thing ever, simply because we exist. Like, when I got to that inner soul love, it was just like, wow. Like, all these pressures that I've put on myself in my life to like be a better partner or a better friend or a better family member or a productive person in the world or a sexy person in the world or this or that, none of that fucking shit matters, because I am already all that.
Your sexiness matters to me. Just kidding. You could be the ugliest person and it still matter to me.
Sometimes I am. But all of that shit is our human constructs, and speaking of the frames that you brought up, like all of those are frameworks that we see life through because of our programming, which is to procreate and like seem smart and like we're trustworthy. Like, so trust even like ties into this. So it's not our again bringing into fault back into the conversation, it's not our fault that we live within these frameworks, because being that trust is so important in life. We want to be trustworthy people. We want to show others that we can handle shit. We want to show others that we are maybe physically fit and able, in order to take care of them, and that's what attracts a partner. Like something even as simple as a woman having wide hips subconsciously on some level makes us realize that they can bear children, and that is attractive somewhere along the chain of evolution. So it's not our fault that we get so caught up in these frameworks, but at the same time, like from a consciousness perspective, none of that shit matters. We are all the shit. We are all already all that. Like, we're so worthy. We're so knowledgeable as conscious agents, as conscious beings in this reality. And
yeah, it's like we're already worthy.
We're
like,
already worthy, and it just felt like it was so obvious to me. Like, and we always hear that, but it just felt like unlike I've ever felt before. Like, we are fucking amazing just from merely existing, and that's all that's required of us here, is to exist and experience and be present with those experiences.
Yeah.
And like, it felt in that state that I was capable of literally anything. Like, literally any direction in life that I put my energy towards is going to be a guaranteed success, and it doesn't matter what external opinions are at all. Like, their version of success means fuck all. It doesn't mean anything. All that matters is my own my own measure of my own success. And even if I decide to just be lazy in this life and like just go with the flow, that's totally okay too. But I think most people feel better being productive, but it's just like, it felt just like such a peaceful feeling, just a peaceful state wash over me from knowing that to my core. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Just checking my notes here, see if I want to say anything else on that. Yeah, and even just like a feeling of like, how dare anyone want to change anyone, because it's like, it's all good, and this person, like, maybe it means like you don't spend as much time together anymore if you truly don't line up in your values or your hobbies or your compatibility or whatever, but like, let people be how they are, and like, if they want to change, they will change. And if it's, it's just like, we have such high expectations, especially of the people closest to us, I feel like. And rightfully so. I don't blame people for that, but like,
I mean, I think there's scenarios when you kind of have the right to like ask someone to change.
And
like,
this is where the shit gets complicated.
Yeah, it gets complicated.
It's valid.
But I see what you're saying. Like, asking them to change like cool parts about their like true self, and like,
yeah, or like goofy quirks, which are like not harming yourself or anyone around you. Yeah, like, everyone is especially entitled to those things, because it makes people unique.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, if someone's being destructive or like,
that's a whole other story. I agree.
Then for sure, yeah, like, we should talk about changing and stuff.
Absolutely.
But like, when it's changing who you really are for the sake of fitting in with other people or something, like, that's a shame to want someone to do that and to expect that of them.
For sure.
That's pulling them away from like who they really are.
That's right. And like, I will also say, on the note of harming others, and wanting to change those aspects of ourselves if we're harming ourselves or others with those aspects. It's not just harming physically, it's harming emotionally or mentally through certain behaviors of yours or tendencies or whatever. If you're in a relationship, for example, and someone feels unloved because you never spent time with them, and you're like married to your work more than you're married to them, for example, that's a valid thing where you want to end that emotional hurt, and it might be unintentional, but like a new approach is required in order to help that person feel loved, especially if it's in some sort of agreement, like a life partnership or a marriage or whatever. That's just one example that comes to mind. But yeah, it's not always the physical harm, it's also the mental and the emotional. Yeah, moving on to lesson number 4 that I got from this. We are our own best homie. Connects to what we've been saying. So the reason I didn't keep ripping on this vape is because I already felt like I was getting the experience that I needed out of this. Like I could have kept trying to reef on this thing and go deeper or like go more, but all of these insights were coming to me, and like I was giving them space to be felt because the feeling is the true experience. So feeling that connected to myself like more than I ever had before, it just made me realize like even if I keep smoking more and going deeper into this, it's going to be just more of the same feeling that I'm already feeling, and I'm already getting a lot out of this. So there's a funny video out there, I guess, of this flat earther lady who talks about how the flat earth is resting on a turtle, and they say, what's deeper than the turtle? And she just says, oh, it's turtles all the way down.
Yeah, I think this is like almost an ancient notion. I don't know if that's like the recent flat earthers, because I think that's been like thought of by like old
It's
tribes
like
and stuff.
Ancient
like we live on the back of a turtle.
Yeah. So anyways, in the light of that, it just felt like if I keep smoking this thing, it's going to be consciousness all the way down. And what I'm experiencing, what consciousness is like love and trust and like friendship of myself. And it's just going to be more of that. So I was like, it'll be sick if I kept going, but like I'm unpacking enough here where I was okay with not doing more.
So what do you mean by like homie in that?
Like you're your own best friend, and like if our true self really is this source of creation, which is whatever you want to call it, God or the universe or some conscious agent that we're all one with, it's just gonna feel like the best friend like that you've ever had, like, embracing you and like lovingly embracing you, kind of like a hug, but like
hug
hug kiss
yeah,
hug.
So it's like that's already within you, and you're already like your own best friend, like supporting yourself. And
yes, and like in that stage, like I don't need anything or anyone outside of me ever. Like I'm already like everything I could ever need in this state. Like I'm not even like today, I'm not always in that state, but like most of today was in that state. It was just like, and like I really feel like when you connect to that true self-love, like truly, and you don't just say it. And like before this experience, I kind of would just say like I love myself that much, but like I truly felt it last night. I think from that place where your cup is so full, that's when you can truly give into the relationships around you in the best ways. And like people can actually feel very valued and loved when your cup is that full. And we all do our best when we're not in that peak state of filled cup. But yeah, it just...
Yeah, I mean, I think especially when life is just going on, it's like so easy to like be hard on yourself and like be your own enemy almost. Like
yeah, we're so hard on ourselves. Like if you fall short of anything, like who cares? It's we're all doing our best. Like literally it goes back to lesson number 3, like nothing matters. All that matters is that you exist and you're doing your best. But yeah, there is no friend like yourself, and the deeper you can connect to yourself through flow state or psychedelics or meditation or some sort of spiritual practice, I don't know, but the deeper you can connect to that core that is you, the better you're gonna feel.
Yeah.
The more fulfilled you're gonna feel.
Yeah, I agree.
And yeah, like just before we move on from that one, it made me reflect on the loving relationship that I had for the better part of the last 10 years that is now over. But it was just like all those frameworks of like what brings people together, like sexiness or success in their work, or even humor and personality. They're all important as human beings, but nothing is more important than each individual being connected to their innermost loving self and coming together as two loving beings and sharing a life together, or sharing at least time together. Like that is the most beautiful way to direct our conscious experience. And it just felt so obvious that like it's about connecting to this inner core and then bringing that to each other. And like I think every person who's truly felt in love has experienced that. It's not about like always needing these like peak experiences to have that, because it just happens automatically when you fall in love. But so much of the time it's like we have to see the other person because we're wired this way through all these human constructs, and all that shit is honestly bullshit compared to just that like inner, I guess I'll call it soul love, of just that loving inner state, that bond of trust based on trust, and bringing that pure energy to each other. So the last lesson before we wrap this up was focusing on reporting back our experiences takes us away from being in the moment and having the full experience of things. I was so focused, even just because sometimes I was thinking of like, how am I going to articulate this even for this podcast? But it was mostly, how am I going to articulate this to Jordan when I come back to, and like, I want to be able to like put this feeling into words for you. And like,
yeah, I wouldn't expect that of you, because I know that you shouldn't.
Well, because the less I was blasting off, the more I had time to think of this kind of shit.
Yeah.
And I didn't like truly blast off, right? So, but thinking that was preventing me from fully being in the feeling, I was realizing. And I just was like, who gives a fuck how, especially while I was connected to my innermost self, it was like, who gives a fuck how like I articulated to Jordan after, like, why am I thinking of that right now even? And like thinking about that today just made me realize how much we do that in our society, whether we want to take pictures or videos outside in the world of our experiences for social media for others to see, or even just for our own self to like reminisce on in the future. That's still sick to have those videos.
It's good to have, yeah, but
in moderation though. It's like,
exactly, yeah.
You will miss your life if you continuously take pics and take videos of all your experiences. Like, that is not living.
Yeah.
It's being truly immersed in the feelings that come up from being fully present in those experiences. That is like the nitty gritty of life.
Yeah. I think stepping away from like the present state to like record these memories is really good if you're doing it like for your future self. Like, if you want to like experience that again later by like watching a video or like looking at pictures of like you and your kids, like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But then I think a lot of people just do it to like, oh, I'm gonna share this like on my my social media and stuff, and like get a bunch of likes and whatever.
Yeah, and
like,
I fell into that at a certain point in my life.
Yeah, I think everyone does. Yeah, and it's like hard to get rid of fully.
Yeah, because it's kind of fun editing pictures and stuff too, even, and like whatever, and making stuff seem sick. It's kind of like a form of art, which is cool, but you don't want to do any art to the extent that it takes you away from the true experience.
Yeah, that's like when I would like record piano videos and like post it on Instagram,
Which is still
It's like,
sick.
yeah, it's like
I would like
it's-
you to
it's-
keep doing that.
It's secondary, like for other people to see it is almost secondary. It's more like for me
To have your own
prove to
memory.
myself like, hey, I learned this song like pretty dope, and I'm just gonna like put it here in a like, concrete form. I can come back and be like, oh yeah, I used to play this. Like, could maybe still play it or relearn it or something. It's just like for myself to have. But then
True.
it's like, yeah, it's like nice for mom to watch or something. Or,
Yeah.
like, yeah. Like
sure.
obviously there's still like some ego part where it's like I want people to think I'm cool and can play piano or something. But
Yeah.
it I think these things should be like primarily for yourself.
Absolutely. I agree.
And I think that's like that your fifth point. It doesn't just like apply to like reporting back from a drug trip to like this is more of like a general like journey versus destination type philosophy of, is the destination is the goal the more important part, or is like the steps along the way what's most important? And I personally think it's the journey that
Me
that
too.
is everything.
Everyone always says that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's easy to like to forget that, especially when the journey might suck and or the destination is super cool or some great result or something. It should always be that you're like in that present moment and being grateful for like the progress that you're putting in or the experiences you're having at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And because the final result is fleeting. Like you'll get there.
Yeah, and
And
it'll be nice if it's
it'll be
something you've been
nice,
working
it'll be
towards in a
great.
long time.
Yeah,
for a long
it's-
time. But
you should feel like accomplished about that and rewarded, but to just disregard everything that went into that, especially if you're engaging in self-destructive behaviors along the way just to get to this final goal, for instance.
right.
I think your whole life is just a continuous journey and there's no real destinations, even
No,
if,
it's true.
if we're constructing them.
Yeah, that connects to what I was saying earlier, like that nothing actually matters.
Right.
But I think the best part that a goal or a destination can serve is to give direction to the journey. And that makes each moment of the journey like meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where a goal really serves a person. But we're not
yeah,
taught
totally.
that. We're not taught that. We typically need to learn that through experience. But absolutely, like, it's good to have direction in life, but the best part of it, like the cream of the crop, is the journey.
Yeah.
Oh. It's kind of a nice way to end it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Short and sweet.
Yeah.
Hour, 2 minutes. So that's good length, I think. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about? I guess you'll probably want to do it again and then maybe give an update episode of like
Yeah, for
breaking
sure.
through
If
and
I can
whatnot.
really unite with the universe or God, like
Yeah,
that
I
is
think
definitely
that'll
worth
be-
talking about again.
Oh yeah.
If it's a similar experience, I'm not gonna do another one, but yeah, at some point I would like to experience this because it just teaches you so much about life and death by the sounds of how other people experience it. So I will be attempting it again in the future, but maybe you'll join me, maybe not.
Yeah, probably at some point.
Yeah. Don't force yourself to do this stuff if you don't feel like you're ready. I don't know if you fully ever feel 100% ready, but
Yeah.
like I think a person should wait till they at least feel like 80 or 90% ready to do this.
Yeah.
If you never do psychedelics in your life, that's fine, but I highly, highly, highly recommend anyone attempt to find what puts them in a flow state and do that regularly.
Yeah, definitely.
And if it's not that, meditation to grow closer to yourself. And,
Yeah.
And also, psychedelics have a ton of medical benefits, and they're going to be one of the best medicines coming up in the near future. There's already certain clinics that are administering them.
Yeah.
MDMA-assisted therapy, psilocybin-assisted therapy, and all of them are very much worth looking into as alternative healing modalities.
Yeah.
So I encourage everyone to do their homework before doing any, and At
Yeah.
the very least, have a trip sitter every time.
Yeah,
But
always be safe.
even
for
better,
sure.
have an experienced shaman or a facilitator in a professional setting, like I don't know, not a doctor's office, but a clinic.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I obviously you want people to do that as safely as possible, and like ideally you do it with an expert. I think there's a
Yes.
ton of great experience you can have just in a casual setting, but it shouldn't be like, party related, for instance. Like it should be like with people you trust and know, and you're all on good wavelengths and positive, and going into this to have you could do it to have a great time, to just for fun, but just doing it in a meaningful environment, and you'll learn something no matter what from
That's
from
right.
these trips. And like some of my best experiences are just doing like shrooms with some friends.
Which sounds like it's for party, but it's like
Yeah, at the
you
time
guys
maybe-
also didn't overdo it. Like okay, maybe one time you overdid it, but like, it's typically in moderation, which allows a very good bonding experience to happen.
Yeah.
And that's where I would recommend it in a party place, where if you're gonna do it, any of these things, without healing intentions or without consciousness exploring intentions, and you're just going to do it casually, definitely do it in moderation. And then if you're going to do it for healing purposes, trust the recommended dosage of a professional and do it with a professional.
Yeah.
But there's like both, like I said, like shaman professionals, like more spiritual based, which are all over the world, especially the more ethnic countries. And or I guess every country is an ethnic country, but you know what I'm saying.
I guess relative
Or
to us, sure.
or a professional environment in a clinic, but some sort of professional at the end of the day.
Yeah. Especially if you're going for like healing and whatnot, you want someone to help you integrate your experience with your daily life, because these experiences are quite intense and crazy. Yeah, to just kind of strap yourself to a rocket and do it on your own is maybe not a great idea for lots of people. So, yeah, just be safe with it. And again, like I personally think everyone, as long as you're comfortable, should see, like, if you're able to do so, to explore one of these states, like maybe at least once in your life, like take a dose of mushrooms or something. Like there's so much stigma against these compounds, historically, and they're not something to just use willy-nilly, but it's something that I feel like you're not
seeing your blind sides if you don't do this stuff
you're,
at least
you're,
once.
You're locked into frameworks very quickly.
Too much. We're all locked into frameworks, and you cannot see them as long as you're still in the same state of mind that you always see it through.
Yeah. And like you said, like if you're adamant against ever trying it, that's totally fine. But to engage in these practices that can give you meaning and connection with yourself, like we were discussing, like flow state type practices or meditation, I don't know what else we said.
Psychedelics.
Yeah. Yeah. So trying to foster those more in daily life will almost guaranteed lead you to living a more meaningful life from your point of view.
Yeah.
I think, like so many people are currently in like a meaning crisis of nothing matters. Like I'm acquiring all this wealth and money, or like sexual partners, or just like acquiring like things,
Consumption.
or achievements, or these destinations, and it's quite hollow because meaning is found elsewhere, typically through these set practices.
Flow state especially, because that's the one that applies to every day.
Yeah. There's definitely like more other spiritual practices, or like people that are in religion or not even, you don't need religion to achieve these meaningful experiences, but to be part of communities or something grander than yourself is also super important.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, basically, if I can sum up psychedelics in a nutshell, it allows you to unpack all the frameworks of how you've been seeing life through, all the lenses that you see life through, and decide which ones are serving you and which ones are not. And inspect why you've been seeing through these frameworks, and if they're ever necessary in certain situations, and if they're not. And if you don't do that, like, you're just going to continue to have the same relational problems with other people or personal issues with your own self. It's just too hard to see all angles of your own life through the same mental state that you typically operate in.
Yeah, like when you think of like, why is therapy so beneficial, like talk therapy, just talking to an expert, even like if they're not giving you feedback, just you talking through your behaviors and whatnot, you can already understand, like you can start to step outside of the frameworks, and like once it's put out there, it's like, oh, this is maybe why I'm behaving this way, blah blah blah. But then obviously to have a professional like give you those insights as well, it's super impactful. And like
or the combination of doing it with a professional therapist, like doing psychedelics with a professional therapist who's asking you the right questions while you're in an elevated state or a zoomed out state, and you're observing your own frameworks already, and then they ask the right questions. It's like, wow.
What a combination. Yeah. No wonder why it's so effective. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, like one shroom trip with these like experts can not undo necessarily, but it can help process so much past trauma or behaviors.
It's curing PTSD, which there was no cure for before.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
literally like 1 or 2 sessions is changing people's lives, like a whole world of a difference. So
yeah.
Anyways, guys, do your homework on all this. The last thing I'll mention is a lot of these plant medicines require preparation before, in terms of dieting for it and cutting out processed foods, etc. So do the preparation homework if you're interested in trying any of them or healing something within yourself. Depression, anxiety, traumas are... Everyone's got some form of it. And even if you just want to learn more about the nature of reality, I highly recommend any of these things, DMT, psilocybin, whatever, but in the right setting and in moderation and with some sort of professional.
Yeah, and always do your research for sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's leave it at that.
Yeah. Happy tripping, yo.
Happy tripping.
Yeah.